Hey folks, thanks so much for joining our good friends at IFI for this event today that looks at options to the public school. My name is Kirk Smith and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director for the Illinois Curriculum Educators, the oldest and largest homeschooling group here in the state of Illinois. Now we often assume that where people are at today is where they've always been. And if you would assume that about me and my wife, you'd be completely wrong. Before I became a senior pastor at the age of 24, I'd already taught a couple of years at public school. My wife also was a public school educator. I actually preached against homeschooling and preached against private schooling, saying the real world, sink or swim, live or die. But the sad reality was that most of our young people were sinking and dying spiritually by the time they reached their sophomore year in college. That prompted my wife and I that by the time our eldest of 11 became school age, we already made the decision to homeschool. And can I tell you, it's the greatest decision we have made as parents, far surpassing even our highest expectations. Most parents think their child will be the exception to the rule, but instead they become another sad statistic. Depending upon which survey you look at, we lose between 60 and up to 90% of our young people to the world's ways after their first year in college. My friends, these things ought not to be. For the scriptures clearly teach us in Luke chapter 6 that when our children are fully trained, they'll be no better than their teacher or their master. In other words, if we send our kids to Rome to be educated, we should not be shocked when they come back thinking like Romans. And we see that happening all across our landscape here today. You understand with this new sex ed bill that's passed, kids who are in junior high will be hearing information, verbiage that would have been considered pornographic 25 years ago, punishable by dismissal if not legal action. And yet, here we are today. What will it take for us to make those decisions as parents? And my friends, do not be deceived. There is a cost to homeschooling. There is a sacrifice to homeschooling. But may I suggest to you, there's an even bigger cost if we don't. Not only might we lose 9% of our children, there'll be the exponential loss of our grandchildren and great-grandchildren as well. So again, we're talking a multi-generational vision here. It's interesting that Deuteronomy 6, which is oftentimes the cornerstone of homeschooling, talks about instructing our kids when they rise up and when they go down, when they walk throughout the day and when they sit. And as I look honestly at the context of that scripture, that aptly describes homeschooling, and in fact, only homeschooling. It's when we spend quality time with our kids, as well as quantity of time, that we transfer our values to them. We should not be shocked to think that 4 or 5 hours at church and a few devotions can stop the onslaught of 40 plus hours of indoctrination every week, not talking about peer pressure on top of that. So I really urge you at this season especially, I believe that God is making parents a very strong choice here. The line is being drawn deeply in the sand by the state and federal government as to whose kids these are. And it's time for us, especially as Christian parents or those who are sensitive to a Judeo-Christian worldview, to say, they're our kids. We'll raise them according to the dictates of our hearts. I hope this night's a blessing. Please feel free to go to our website at www.iche.org. There are articles, there are videos, numerous resources. You don't have to make this journey on your own. God bless, and may He give you His spirit of wisdom and knowledge as you make this decision.